Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Take on the World 2022. And have something special. This is the first of two debates, which is going to be a future debate show that is going to be coming to Take on the World TV, where we're going to talk about different things from two different perspectives and allow people to make up their own minds on these things. Tonight, we are going right for it. We're going to end the insanity. Flat Earth versus the globe. We have Thad Frost, who's going to be debating on the globe side. He is the only former Christian who learned that the Bible is a flat earth book and actually ran from it. And so then we have from Flat Out Insights, Michael Solomon, who's going to be debating on the flat earth side. So each person is going to be getting a 30-minute presentation or up to 30 minutes. They can save their time for rebuttal. And then we're going to be going through rebuttals and a counter rebuttal. And then we're going to go right into multiple questions for each other with a open dialogue portion. And so tonight's debate's going to go right to 10 o'clock. And quick news on the conference, we are extending it to Monday because a lot more presentations came in. So stay tuned for all that information. I'm going to shut up and I'm going to turn it over to Thad. Thad's going to get this going. We're going to mute ourselves. And once I get this clock rolling, we are going to determine whether the Earth is for once and for all a globe or a ball. Well, no, I'm sorry, a flat Earth or a ball. So, Thad, thank you so much for doing this. Michael, thank you so much for doing this. Let's go ahead and get started.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Awesome. Okay, so we're supposed to be talking about top 5 proofs for our position. So I'm going to be defending the globe Earth tonight. And so I'll just get right into it here. Oh, I want to say first that I'm not here to attack this flat earther here, his person. We try to be courteous to people, but ideas do not get that same courtesy. Ideas don't have rights. And so we can say whatever we want and ridicule ideas and be as harsh as we want to ideas. So I'll get into the first proof here, which is really the only proof that I need to prove the globe Earth and disprove the flat Earth model. But the first proof is that the sun remains roughly the same size all throughout the day. So if you look at the sun anywhere you are on the planet, at dawn, it appears to be a certain size. At noon, it appears to be roughly the same size. And at dusk, it appears to be roughly the same size. But on the flat Earth, that should not be happening at all. And I have a diagram here, the flat Earth diagram. If you want to share it, Chris, you can. And I'll kind of go over why the sun should be appearing many times bigger at noon than at dawn and at dusk. So all we have to do here is just rough out a couple measurements, and we can kind of do some trigonometry here and get some distances. So on the flat Earth, the circumference, the equator, would be roughly about 25,000 miles around, which you can see here in the middle of this hand drawn. I drew it by hand, but in order to see how far the sun travels from dawn until noon, if we were standing roughly at the equator, and let's say it's a normal summer day, the sun's traveling along the equator. Since the circumference would be 25,000 miles, that makes the radius 12,500 miles. And we're going to use Pythagorean theorem here, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, to find out that hypotenuse here. How far did the sun travel from dawn until dusk? So since we have 2 legs, I put the calculations here on the left side of that graphic. What it boils down to is that the sun would travel 17,678 miles from dawn to noon, and then obviously from noon to dusk. Well, since we have that measurement of how far the sun actually traveled above us, we can find out another measurement now using the same formula. We can find out how far away the sun it was from us at dawn and how far away it is at noon. And the way that we can do that is we can just look up flat earthers and find out how far away from us at noon is the sun. How far away is the sun when it's right over our heads? Now, it's tough to find this measurement, actually. I had to do a lot of research from various flat earthers, secular flat earthers, Christian flat earthers, and what generally I've heard is that it's about 3,000 miles above us. It's hard because not all flat earthers agree. Flat earthers are very splintered into various sects, and so not all of them are willing to make a truth claim about roughly, not exact, but roughly how far away is the sun. So I'm going to go with the 3,000 mile. So that's one leg. That's a straight down leg. We have our previous measurement of 17,667 miles is our other leg forming a right angle. Well, that can give us the calculation on the right side of the graphic that from us to the sun at dawn would be 17,931 miles. That's roughly, now we're using rough measurements. That doesn't matter because we're just looking for how far away is it at dawn to noon. And so if at noon the sun is 3,000 miles above us and almost 18,000 miles away at dawn, that's 6 times closer at noon than it is at dawn. Does the sun appear to be 6 times larger at noon than it does at dawn and dusk? Does it appear to get even twice as big from dawn to dusk? Well, obviously, if anyone is being honest here, they would say no, the sun doesn't appear to be 6 times larger at dawn or at noon than it does at dawn and dusk. And so the importance of this can't be overstated. This completely demolishes flat Earth. The only thing that explains it is the globe Earth model, because the sun being about 92 million miles away and being about 109 times wider than the Earth, of course, it wouldn't appear much bigger because those are massive differences in distance, to where if we're spinning, I got my globe here, if you're here at dawn and then at dusk, halfway or a quarter of the way around the planet, well, that distance is the same measurement that we got of how far the sun traveled, which would be about 17,600 miles. We'll just call it 18,000 miles. Well, 18,000 miles compared to 92 million miles, very, very small fraction of a percentage difference. So of course we wouldn't think twice about the sun appearing roughly the same size. But on flat Earth, it would have to be about 6 times bigger because it's 6 times closer at noon. It's not what we observe. And no flat earther has an answer for this. Believe me, I've talked to plenty of flat earthers and put this up to them, and they all just say, I have no idea why that is. Why does the sun stay the same shape throughout the day? On a flat earth, if it's getting 6 times closer, so here we got a flat earth, and here's our little guy, on the flat earth here. And if the sun, which my little guy keeps falling down, but if the sun is moving closer, it should be appearing much bigger. And every flat earther says, I have no idea. Is the sun, up here, or is it closer and then it's going up to appear farther away? No. No flat earther would say that the sun is actually moving up and down in altitude throughout the day. They all say it remains parallel. It's always moving parallel. Now, inside, outside, of course, they'll say for seasons, okay, whatever. But up and down altitude change, not that big to make it appear the same at noon. And even then, does it change for every single person, or if the person's here on flat Earth, or here, or here, or here? That's insane. No one's saying that. So, according to the flat Earth model, their own model, it's impossible. The sun should be appearing way bigger. Again, I can't overstate that really this is the biggest thing. It doesn't involve trick photography. You can't blame NASA for this. You can't claim government conspiracy. This is just the behavior of the sun that we all observe anywhere on the planet. You can't use a location-based argument saying, well, it's different in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere. We have people living all over the world on like every continent, basically, and no one's ever said, oh yeah, the sun appears many times bigger at noon than it does at dawn and dusk. Actually, the opposite is what's true. What we actually observe is that at dawn and dusk, the sun is slightly bigger, and that's because the atmosphere, there's more atmosphere coming in, or that the sunlight is going through, so it kind of gives it a magnifying effect. So if anything, what we observe is that the sun appears just slightly smaller at noon. Well, this is not what the flat Earth community would have you believe, and none of them address it. Like I said, I was out in California, actually. I was in Los Angeles last summer. And if you've ever been to Los Angeles, you know that one of the famous landmarks is the Griffith Observatory, set way up high on that hill, that mountain. Beautiful view of the city there. But I went there on vacation, and what did I find but a flat earther out front preaching, big sign on a big pole, you know, had like this orange jumpsuit on, and he's preaching about flat Earth. And oh, it's great. This is what I need. I need to ask this question to as many flat earthers as possible. Why doesn't the sun appear 6 times bigger at noon than at dawn and dusk? And he couldn't answer it. He kept trying to change the question, and I wouldn't let him go. Like, no, there's got to be a reason why. If the sun is moving parallel to the surface of the earth all day, and it's 6 times closer at noon, why don't we observe that? No answer. Actually, what happened was a group of people had gathered around, and we had probably about 20, 25 people gathered around, because he kept trying to change the subject. Well, what about NASA photography? Why, no, that doesn't have anything to do with it. Let's stick to this. And it completely stumped. After about 20 minutes of this, my girlfriend had to like pull me away, like, come on, let's leave this guy alone, you know. And everybody started clapping for me, like, wow, that's a really good point. Never thought of that. Completely demolishes flat Earth, and no flat earther has an answer for it. So, like I said, I just took up over 10 minutes of my half an hour here just on that one point, because really that's the killer. Now, let's take it a step further. My opponent here, he doesn't actually believe that the sun is 3,000 miles away at noon. Now, if you go to his channel, The Observer, he has a video on there called Luminaries Behind the Clouds or something like that. And he has a video. I don't think that this is a flat Earth video. It's 2 guys, 2 pilots in a Cessna, and they're flying at 28,000 feet on the altimeter, and they are flying above a cloud bank. And when they look down, they're observing, like, below them, you can see the sun, and it's illuminating the clouds, and it's this beautiful red color on the clouds, and they're above it. And what this flat earther here is claiming is that, see, the sun is actually really close. It's underneath those clouds. It's not off in the horizon. It's not out in space. It's under those clouds, and this plane is above it. Well, let's think about this. At 28,000 feet, that's roughly 5.3 miles. And so this plane is at 5.3 miles. You're saying that the sun is below this plane. So, and we'll just say 5 miles. This flat earther that I'm debating tonight believes that the sun is actually only 5 miles above the surface of the earth. 5 miles. We can go back to the graphic, the sun graphic here, the sun diagram, because I roughed out measurement for that too. And we can figure out the same calculations rather than 3,000 miles above the planet, above the plane of the earth, flat earth. Let's plug in what 5 miles would be. Chris, you got that graphic again of the sun diagram? If not, there we go. Okay, up in the top right corner, 5 miles away, that makes the difference between the distance from us on the surface to where the sun would be at dawn. It makes it 17,678 miles. Well, the sun has traveled exactly that, 17,678, which I'm rounding. It'd be slightly different. But this is a very shallow triangle. Well, 5 compared to 17,678 is 3,535 times as close at noon than it is at dawn. Do we observe the sun being 3,535 times bigger at noon than at dawn? This flat earther wants you to think that the sun's only 5 miles above you at noon, at best. Is that what we observe? Now, see, the 3,000 mile measurement, at least I can have more respect for that. It's still ludicrous, but at least it's like somewhat conceivable. But 5 miles, I mean, this flat earther actually holds this idea, and that idea is ridiculous. That is absolutely insane. I can't overstate how nuts that idea is. Absurd. The funny thing about that is if you actually think that the sun is only 5 miles above us, again, 28,000 feet, that means that that plane could crash into the sun at that altitude. Do we ever hear airline pilots worrying about crashing into the sun? Never. Do you ever hear about air traffic controllers saying, hey, we need you to drop down or fly higher because you're going to run into the sun there? Absolutely not. That is so crazy. And so I say, if it were that close, why don't flat earthers just go get their pilot license, go grab a plane, and go fly next to it? Just follow it around. You know, I mean, obviously be moving at about 1,000 miles an hour, because on the flat earth, if the equator is the same, 25,000 miles around, that would make the speed of the sun about 1,000 miles, maybe a little bit less than 1,000 miles per hour that sun is moving. Again, flat earth here. Here's my plate, which, Chris, you can take that down now, that graphic. If here's our flat plane, and here's my little Lego guy, you know, hanging out there, and he's going to lay down. But the sun, according to the flat earth model, is moving at about 1,000 miles per hour in order to cover 25,000 miles in 24 hours. It's not hard to figure it out. 25,000 miles in 24 hours. I guess it'd be moving a little bit faster than 1,000 miles an hour. Okay, no problem. But a plane, you know, your average jet, it's traveling at like 400 miles an hour. A Cessna probably not going to be that fast, but you know, at that altitude at 5 miles, a plane could go right up to it, fly next to it as it's flying around, and could at least you know, kind of get close to it for a while. This is absolutely crazy. There's no way that the sun is anywhere near that close. So have I exhausted proof number one that the sun does not behave in the way that the flat Earth model, which Chris, you could throw up that picture of the flat Earth model just for the record here. This is what this flat earther believes that the Earth looks like. It's flat. It's under dome firmament. You can kind of see the sun and moon under the firmament. Basically, it's a snow globe, which I have a snow globe here. You know, here's my snow globe of Philadelphia. You can see kind of from this graphic, the tip of Argentina there in South America is, you could draw a straight line to Australia on this map. So you have this insanely large Pacific Ocean. Basically, the whole landmass of Earth is scrunched into one hemiplane there. But this is what we're talking about when we're talking about flat Earth. Is that what we observe? A sun moving around and staying the same and changing size? No way. Okay, so that's no problem. But that's the biggest proof, and that really should be the only proof that I need to do. But since we're doing 5 proofs, I'll move through 5. So the second one is, and this is equally as detrimental to the flat Earth model, and equally as proof of the globe Earth, is that the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn are the same length. Well, that makes sense on a globe. Tropic of Cancer is in the northern hemisphere where we are, no problem. Tropic of Capricorn is down here where the southern hemisphere is. On a globe, they are the same length, roughly. I mean, the Tropic of Capricorn is 22,859 miles around. Tropic of Cancer is 22,850 miles around, roughly the same distance. But if you look at a flat Earth map, there's no way they're the same length around. If the equator is 25,000 miles, well, the Tropic of Cancer is much smaller than that in the north. The Tropic of Capricorn is way bigger. Is that what we observe? Do we observe a Tropic of Capricorn being way bigger than the Tropic of Cancer? Absolutely not. And people have traveled it before. There was a guy named Simon Reeve. He traveled all 3 of those. In 2006, he traveled the equator, made a big documentary out of it. He followed the equator around the Earth, traveled along it on its land masses and across the oceans, water, all that stuff. In 2008, he traveled the Tropic of Capricorn. And in 2010, he traveled along the Tropic of Cancer. Did this guy have a really short trip along the Tropic of Cancer, a middle-sized trip on the equator, and an extremely long trip across Capricorn? No, he didn't. And you can check out his documentary if you want. It's easy to find online. Just Google him. SGS, simple Google search, right? So, number 2 proof, Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn are the same distance. Flat Earth, impossible. All right, number 3 proof. You can only travel south on a globe. On the flat Earth, there's no such thing as south, really. Since we have a globe Earth and we have magnetic poles, we have a north pole and the antipode of that, the opposite end of a sphere, the antipode would be the south pole. Well, since we have 2 points now, a defined north pole and a defined south pole, we then get east and west. Possible to have east and west. But on a flat Earth, there's no east and west. There's no south. There's only north. Because on a plate here, you got north in the middle. But if you were to start moving, if you were here and started moving this way, well, that's south. That's not east or west, because eventually you'll hit the other end. If this is south here, well, then you're hitting south. If I start here and move this way, I'm still going south. If I start here and move this way, I'm still going south. If I move this way and I'm going south. The only direction to go on the flat Earth is literally north, which technically I'm still going south and this way, but it's just deviations from north on a flat Earth. Every other direction you're going south 360 ways. Doesn't make sense. How can you have GPS that works at all? You know, everybody here, I'm sure, that is driving and wanting directions to a place, types it into their map feature, puts in the address, and maps out, here's where you're going. And you can tell north and south on this because only because of the globe Earth. If you get in your car and your car has a compass on it, your car will literally tell you based on where you're turning, okay, you're heading north now. Okay, you're heading northeast. Now you're heading, east. Well, on a flat Earth, you would only be heading south in some way. It doesn't work. So again, the globe Earth model has explanatory power for where east and west are and south. The flat Earth model has no explanatory power on how you can go in any direction and know where you're going. Number 4, this one has to do with the moon. The globe Earth can explain why there are craters on the moon. You look at the moon, you take a telescope, you look at it, and this flat earther has done it. He has a P900, a Nikon P900, Nikon P1000, and he's used moon mode, and he can shoot pictures of the moon, and they're beautiful. And you can see those craters on the moon. You can see the impact marks of asteroids, meteoroids, whatever, and they're different lines, passing out from impact. How do you explain that on the flat Earth? How do you explain a meteorite crashing into the moon when it's under a dome firmament? I don't think you can. Globe Earth is the only model that explains why there's craters on the moon. Again, according to the flat Earth, they don't even know what the moon is. Is it a ball? Is it a flat disc? Where did the meteorites go to crash into it? Did they somehow come from? Here's my flat Earth model with the dome firmament. Did the meteorites come in and then change and crash into the moon? It doesn't make any sense. I don't even know that I've ever heard a flat earther admit that there are asteroids or meteorites. So, I mean, where did these craters come from? The only way to explain them on a flat Earth model is some sort of magic. Maybe some sort of mythical warfare in the sky of, Greek mythology or ancient Near East mythology, Egyptian, Sumerian, Israelite, Jewish mythology. Who knows? Some sort of warfare up there amongst supernatural beings, maybe. I don't know. Number 5, proof. Argentina, Ushuaia, Argentina is the southernmost city. It's way down here at the tip of Argentina, Tierra del Fuego. Well, Tierra del Fuego gets 17 hours of daylight on December 21st. Only the globe Earth explains this because the sun would be moving around, or the sun not moving, but the Earth would be rotating towards the sun for their summer down there. Well, on a flat Earth, that doesn't work. Flat Earth, the sun would constantly, if it's closer, giving a lot of sunlight during their summer in the south. Well, once it moves away, how is the light still hitting this point way over here when the sun has moved over here and so much farther away? It doesn't, and this middle is dark for night. How can you have 17 hours of daylight down there in the southern hemisphere? And Chris, you could show that graphic if you wanted the daylight times real quick. Their dawn on December 21st is at 4:51 a.m. and their dusk on December 21st is at 10:11 p.m. That's 17 hours and 20 minutes of daylight. Absolutely impossible. Okay, Chris, you can take it away. Thank you. Absolutely impossible on a flat Earth. Only the globe Earth explains why that happens. And I'll even give you a sixth one if I have time here, a bonus proof, and this is real quick. You know that you can get 2 sunsets in Dubai at the Burj Khalifa, the skyscraper, the tallest building in the world. You can observe 2 sunsets from the lobby. You can see the first sunset. If you take the elevator ride, it takes about a minute. You go up about 1,800 feet. You will start to see the sun again as you climb that elevator. You can see the sun set again from up high. It only works on a globe Earth. On a flat Earth, especially if you're going to try to say that the sun has some sort of spotlight effect, well, you can't do it. As the sun moves away, that ray of the sun, you would actually see the sunset first from the ground, or you would see it set first from the top of the tower. Then you could go down the elevator and see it set again on the bottom. That's not what we observe. We observe the exact opposite because of the globe Earth. You can go higher and see the sun set again. All right, how am I doing on time, Chris? Did I do it?
You've got 18 seconds. Anything left?
All right, there we go. I fit it all in.
All right. Okay, Michael, you are up next. Michael, unmute your mic. Okay, Michael. Okay, guys, I think the debate is over because Michael has not unmuting his mic. Mike.
Sorry about that.
All right. Hey, Michael, now you have 15 minutes on the clock to rebuttal all of that. You have 15 minutes, and then we're going to come back for a counter rebuttal by Thad. On my set.
Oh, wait a minute. What about my half hour?
You're going to do that next. So we're
next. Okay.
Yeah, we're going to keep presentations sharp, right on the mind, so don't have too many other things that we're going to talk about. Let's stay right on point to what Thad had to share there. You've got the rebuttal. Thad will have the counter rebuttal. All right. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right. Begin.
Okay. Let me first make this point that I'm coming at this subject as an artist. Okay. And I'll talk about that in my presentation. And what I observe in the world is I use my skills that I have developed over 35 years, and I use those to observe the world we live in. One of the things that Thad spoke on was the size of the sun. And he did mention atmospheric lensing, and atmospheric lensing and perspective work in conjunction with each other. When the sun is moving away from the Earth, away from a specific site, it actually does get smaller, but that's difficult to see because of certain temperature differentials. You can see it easier in very cold weather and very dry weather. Okay, that's when it becomes very obvious. Also, perspective. The way perspective works, and I'll be speaking on that in more detail. The way perspective works is, of course, when something leaves, when it moves away from you, it reaches its vanishing point. And when it does that, there's a certain distortion that occurs. And what happens is the object will look as if it's going below the horizon when it really isn't. This is a very easy experiment that one can do, where you take you can take just like a simple ball. I can't do it on camera because you actually need an expanse. I have an image, but I kind of got mixed up with my presentation. So what you can do is actually move the ball. You put your camera at the eye level of the floor, and then you move the ball or quarter or some small object away from your phone lens, okay, or camera. And as you do that, the bottom will start to disappear. Now, one would say, hey, it's moving beyond the horizon, it's moving on the curve, when it actually isn't. That's the way vanishing point works. So watching the sun change size is not an easy matter, because the size, because of atmospheric, and I use the word atmospheric because I don't have an alternative yet. The atmospheric conditions inhibit you from actually seeing it, but it can be seen. Let's see. As far as the distance of the sun, I will talk about this more in my presentation, but crepuscular rays prove the distance of the sun and the moon. Okay, it's because you can only make crepuscular rays in one way, and that is through through the closeness of the light source to the obstruction. Okay, proximity to the obstruction. And the only way you can make crepuscular rays, meaning the light beams that shine down, that beautiful effect that you see after a rain or during fog, and I have photos of this during my presentation. The only way you can create that is that the light source has to be close to the obstruction. There is no other way. Therefore, if the light source is that close, because when I say close, I mean kissing close. The sun, my hand is clouds, the sun would have to be very close in order to create the light beams at that sharp angle. That shows that the sun is very close physically, it's very local. A sun 93 million miles away that's hundreds and hundreds of times larger than the earth. So you have this ball here, and then you have the earth. This is not to scale, because the earth would be really tiny. I don't have a marble, unfortunately, but there's no way a sun that size is going to create those light beams. And I'll explain that further. Let's see. I'm trying to stick with my time here. Proving the flat Earth is a collection of evidence, just like working with any mystery. It's not going to be one single evidence. It's going to be a collection of evidence. As far as the moon is concerned, the craters. My problem with the craters is this: when you look at the craters, and I'll show this, when you look at the craters, those craters are almost perfectly round. Now you have the ever expanding infinite cosmos, and you have celestial objects flying all over the place, different velocities, different directions, and there is no way that they're going to actually create perfectly shaped craters, almost perfectly shaped craters every single time. Okay, they're going to be coming from all over the place, and they're going to hit the surface and cause a channel, okay, and scrape the surface and then eventually stop. And I actually have an animation to show this. So it would have a buildup of material, and there's this long canal that it creates. In other words, the moon should look more like Mars, the traditional picture of Mars that's used. It should have scrapes and lines all over it, yet it does not. All the craters are this beautiful shape. Now, do I know what creates craters? No, I do not. I have no problem admitting that. We have just learned within recent, now don't get me wrong, enclosed cosmology is nothing new. I'm talking about the resurgence of it in 2015. We have just learned so much so fast. There's a lot of stuff we don't know, but by the same token, anyone who believes in heliocentrism, there's a lot that they don't know either. All right. They have agreed on a certain amount of data or certain facts, and those facts drive their calculations and drive their view and drive their science. And a lot of those facts simply aren't true. For instance, crepuscular rays. Okay. I'm trying to leave that for my presentation because I actually have photos and stuff to prove that. So let me hold on that as far as crepuscular rays. How am I doing, Chris? Okay,
You have 7
so
minutes left.
pardon me?
7 minutes.
7 minutes. Okay. Um, I think, let's see. Okay, the measurements Thad based his calculations on, his calculations work within those measurements. I have no problem with that. That's called constrained math. When you put in a certain amount of data that has been agreed upon and you base your calculations on that data is the foundation of your calculations, then yes, the calculations work. Absolutely. My problem is the foundational data. There's too many holes, too many contradictions. And that's what I hope to cover today.
Are you conceding your time?
I am.
Okay. And you've got 5 minutes on your next rebuttal.
Okay.
Actually, you have 6 minutes. Okay, let's go ahead and bring Thad back in. Thad, you have up to 10 minutes here to counter rebuttal Michael now.
I'll just push that time back.
Okay,
I kind of want to hear what his 5 proofs are here.
All right. Okay, that works. Okay. Guys, we're gonna go into Michael's 30-minute presentation. So you wore the old man down. No,
Hey, real quick, I'll just take like a minute of that time.
okay.
Chris, could you show that photo I gave you of the dude at Griffith Observatory? Somebody in the chat knows this dude, actually. There's the photo I snapped of him last July, or it was like the end of June. So there you go, orange jumpsuit dude. Like I said, a crowd gathered, totally took him to school, and he had no answer for why the sun doesn't appear many times bigger at noon than it does at dawn and dusk. Anyway, I can see the rest of my time to later.
All right. And so if anybody, so Thad, you got an additional 10 minutes. Michael, you have an additional 6 minutes. Okay. Michael, we're going to go ahead and pull your screen up here. Go ahead and share your screen.
Is it sharing?
No.
Okay, hold on. Is it sharing now?
It is.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and mute and remove us. Go ahead and go, Michael. You've got 30 minutes.
Okay. All right. So I'm coming at this again. Title of my presentation is The Observer, the Earth is Flat. Again, I'm coming at this as an artist. I've been an animator, illustrator, photographer for 35 years. And I use those skills to evaluate the world that we live in. So therefore, I use my everyday skills of physics, my understanding of the physics of light, composition, perspective, perception, 3D, and perception of 3D environment, color theory, spatial relationship, sense of timing and spacing. I must have the skill to predict results while experiencing and working in the world in the world around me. And the reason I say that is because actually a lot of people say, hey, who are you to challenge conventional science? Okay, these are my credentials. But my point is I use the skills that I use on an everyday basis to evaluate our world. I'm actually trying to encourage other people to do that. What is the flat earth? Flat earth is a term that describes the shape and discernible characteristics of the world we all live on. It is composed of topographically detailed land masses, bodies of water, density underneath, and luminaries above. My premise: if any concept, claim, or theory is not supported by observable, repeatable evidence that leads to a logical, sustainable conclusion, it is not real. Proving the reality of flat earth is similar to validating any concept. It takes a collection of evidence, direct or indirect, and that's really important, direct or indirect, that leads to a logical conclusion, a verdict that can sustain honest, determined scrutiny. All right, let's start with the history of flat Earth, which is pretty vast. Okay, let's go to relatively recent history where we have all of these books that were written in the 1800s of very learned men who studied the Earth far more than I ever have. Um, Now let's look at the ancient cultures. A culture's art is a window to its history. If you want to learn about any ancient culture, look at its art, look at their creations. Okay, so we have um, all of these various cultures. Okay, we have Norse, Hebrew, Egyptian, Inca, Mayan. But look at the similarities between all of these cultures. These cultures that span thousands of years and thousands of miles and completely different cultures, yet their cosmology all looks similar. Huh. It's not like they were talking or there was any social media or anything. This cannot be ignored. So let's draw a picture from this. So when you look at all of these illustrations from all of these cultures, is this what you come up with? No, absolutely not. So let's draw a picture based on these illustrations. First of all, there's a plane. In every single one of them, there's a plane of existence where we all live, where the land masses are, the water, stuff like that. All right. So we have a plane here. Also, if you look at each one, there's some type of structure covering the plane. There's a dome, or in the Egyptians actually use their deities. You have the Asgardians with the great tree. There's something covering the land masses. Then you have the luminaries, the sun, moon, and the stars. Are Some of them they are on the outside of the dome, but most of them they're on the inside, and so we put that in our illustration. Then, if you look at the rest of them, if you look at these illustrations again, you will see there's some type of under realm. There's a beneath realm. There's a subterranean type world underneath the plane that we live on. Also, there's something holding up the world. Okay. Um, you will see in a lot of these in our Asgardians, there's looks like a giant lizard actually. And then with the Hebrews, there are columns, and you have a snake holding up. Oh, I'm sorry, those are elephants, and on a turtle. So there's something holding up the world. All these similarities from all these cultures cannot be ignored. Let's look at curvature. All right, so I have here, I shot this with the P900, and if you look at the bolt, you can actually you can see most of the bolt. The reason why you can't see um some of it, the bottom, forgive me, I am a nautically ignorant. So I'm gonna butcher the names of the different parts of the bolt, but you can't see the bottom of the bolt because of perspective. So I'm going to zoom out, okay? And the reason why uh, the water is so choppy, that's because of telescopic um, compression. All right, so that boat is about 5 miles away. My eye level was 3 feet. So my obstruction, if you do the calculation, which will be 8 inches per mile squared, and I actually, just to make it official, I use one of the many websites that calculate Earth curvature. And so, but they use this simple equation, and my obstruction should be 5 feet 7 inches. So therefore, I should see maybe some of the sail, okay, but I should not see as much of that boat as I did. All right, let's look at another one. And I like using water because there are no obstructions. well, in this one, you're going to see a lot of boats flying around, but there are no obstructions. And with this one, I'm going to zoom in. The air quality is much better on this day because it was really hot this day. And as you can see, as I zoomed in, you see these boats. You did not see them at first, but you actually see some people floating out there on jet skis. You see a sailboat, and you see I guess that's called a motorboat or a yacht, maybe. But you did not see them when this shot first started. So I'm going to zoom back out again. And according to conventional science, the reason why you can't see them is because they were beyond the curve. Well, our line of sight is straight only. And if they were beyond the curve, I don't care how long my lens is. I use a Nikon P1000, which is an equivalent 3000 millimeter lens. There's no way I could take a picture of those boats. They were 10 miles away. My eye level was 5 feet because I was standing on the pier. You do the calculation. My obstruction was 35 feet, 35.2 feet. There's no way I should see those boats. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, it's a mirage. Oh, okay, I grant you that. But first of all, the atmospheric conditions at this day did not support that because you need the color of the temperature differentials to create that. Also, those boats were far too sharp. There were no inverted images. And I mean, man, if I zoomed in even further, because the P1000 can do that, I could probably read the name on the side of the boat. They were far too sharp. All right, this gentleman took mountains. We're going through this quickly. This gentleman took these shots from that shack that you just saw, and he shot with a P1000 hundreds of miles away. If you'll notice, these mountains do not look inverted. They do not look like a mirage. They are totally sharp. Now, he was at a very high elevation, but that is beside the point. If you have a huge amount of obstruction, which means if you have this huge hump of earth in front of you, it doesn't matter how long your lens is, you will not take these pictures. It's not possible on a globe. My deduction. According to conventional science, the naked eye cannot see an object beyond the horizon due to Earth's curvature. Yet, when focusing on that very spot or any specific spot that you choose with a telephoto lens or viewing at a high elevation, you can clearly see objects hundreds of miles away. This is not possible on a globe. Therefore, the Earth is flat. Now, I know that sounds very simplistic. Wow, you're going to get that all from that? Actually, yes, because you don't need a whole lot of evidence to come to a specific conclusion. But let's move on. I do have 5 or actually more evidences, but they're all kind of merged together. Let's look at corpuscular rays, which is a personal favorite of mine. All right, this is the architecture of corpuscular rays: obstruction, proximity, particulates. In order to create corpuscular rays, you need a light source that is very close to the obstruction, and you need some type of particulate for the light to illuminate. In this case of this photograph, you actually have fog because it's above a body of water. So it's fog or mist. And in order to create the light beams that you see, the sun or any light source has to be very, very close. All right, let's look at that. This is a controlled conditions. I actually have my light is you can see by this photograph. I have a mag light close to some pegboard. You see how close it is. You see those rays? Okay, that's how you create corpuscular rays. I used to work in the theater doing practical effects. There is only one way you can create corpuscular rays or light beams, and that is with a very close light source to the obstruction. So these are the ingredients. Oh, by the way, if you want to do this at home, don't use baby powder. It's really messy. Okay. That's what I had on hand. Use a fog machine or a steamer or something like that. Don't use baby powder. All right. So Now I took my light source and I moved it far away, as far as I could, because my ceiling was very low on my patio. But I moved as far as I could. As you can see, the holes in the pegboard focused more. Okay, and you can see more of the holes. All right. Now, when I use the baby powder, the light beams are actually more horizontal. They actually would have been completely horizontal if I were able to move that flashlight further up. And the reason why I did this variation is because science says that light beams coming down to the earth are actually horizontal because of the moon, the sun being so far away. I actually proved they're actually right. If the sun were very far away, then it would create those horizontal beams. But we don't see that in nature. We don't see that in creation. What we see are light beams that are at a nice, beautiful angle, and they are not spread all over the sky. Okay, I'm looking at this is just a reference shot. I live on the 14th floor, so I shot this from my terrace. It was really foggy that day. Okay, I'm getting to a point here. These are crepuscular rays created artificially, and this is a street light. The street light is a light source. The trees are the obstruction, and the particulates are the fog, and there was a light rain as well. So as you can see, those are the ingredients to creating corpuscular rays. Again, close light source. The street light is very close. If you notice, very close. There is no other way to create corpuscular rays unless you have a very close light source. Again, you see here, it's a different spread, but it's much bright. It's not brighter, but there's a huge spread of light beams, but it's from a very close light source to a segmented obstruction, illuminating the fog. Okay, as you can see here, this was in Hawaii. This is a beautiful shot, and I did not shoot it, but I got this from online. But as you can see, the sun is is above the clouds. As the clouds are moving, the gentleman sped this up. As the clouds are moving, it's creating those rays, just like it did with the street lights. All right, because there is no other way to do it. Ask anyone who works in the movies, who does practical effects in front of the camera or on a stage. And the reason I keep saying that is this: the great thing about experimentation is whatever works in the micro works in the macro. Okay, so basically you just have to scale up. All right, because in order to do an experiment, you have to usually scale it down in order to do it, to practically do it. But your results will also work in the macro. Okay, so again, crepuscular rays. This was in Akron from my terrace. I shot it with the P1000. My deduction from this experiment is occurring naturally or man-made. There is only one way this phenomenon can be experienced: with a very close light source. The cause that causes a domino effect of conclusions. And here are my conclusions. Since the sun has to be within the clouds to create crepuscular rays, you cannot do it with a humongous, giant, burning ball 93 million miles away. It cannot be done. The sun is not in space. The sun has to be very local. No giant sun for the planets to orbit means no solar system. No solar system means no planets. The non-existence of planets supports the conclusion of a flat Earth. Now, that sounds nuts. It sounds insane. And if you had told me this in 2014, I would have heartily agreed with you. But once I looked at these facts, once I looked at this with an open mind, instead of looking at it through the preconditions I was taught as a child in the public schools, then I realized, holy mackerel, I've been lied to for 55 years. So the end of my 30 minutes, or I don't know how much time I have left, but don't accept, verify. That's how I live my life right now. Chris, how much time do I have?
You have 13 minutes.
Oh, okay. I have something else I'd like to share. Okay. So I need to stop sharing this one.
Okay.
Okay. And okay. So I'm going to show what science says about let's see. Okay, according to science, perspective plays a perspective plays a oh yeah, this is good. Okay. I'm going to share. Oh boy, I'm gonna take up all my time just trying to figure this out. Let's see. Oh, okay, share. Share screen. Do I have to turn off my PowerPoint? Do I have to turn off my PowerPoint?
You may.
Okay. I'm gonna do that. I don't need any more else to.
Okay, go and share what you want to share.
Yes. Turn off the PowerPoint and share screen. Okay. It's not sharing from that viewer. All right, I'm gonna have to talk this out. Okay, so let me get rid of that. All right. According to science, crepuscular rays are due to perspective. The only reason you see the beams coming down at an angle is the same way you view railroad tracks. I know everyone has actually seen when you're viewing railroad tracks, when you're parallel to the railroad tracks, when they descend into the distance, that's called single point perspective. And that's an artistic, artists use that all the time. And they're saying that when you see the light beams converge, it's the same phenomenon. The problem with that is perspective is position dependent only. And the only way you can experience those railroad tracks or a long hallway or any type of long expanse that converges in the distance, the only way you can experience that is you have to be at a certain position relative to that object, okay, to that space. So that means the only way to attribute perspective to corpuscular rays is to be directly under the light source in order to see that convergence, just like with railroad tracks or a long hallway. And that is never the case. Okay. I showed you those videos where people were miles away. I was miles away when I was shooting the corpuscular rays in the on the street lamp. I was actually like around 50 feet away. Okay. I was using a slight telephoto. I was not underneath the light source. Therefore, perspective has literally nothing to do with corpuscular rays. That means leads you on a domino effect of conclusions. If perspective has nothing to do with it, then that means proximity has everything to do with it. And if the sun has to be that close, we're talking kissing close. If it has to be that close, then it can't be in outer space. Again, sounds nuts, but that's beside the point. It can't be in outer space. Okay. And that's why I say that the sun is not 3,000 miles up in the sky. It is, if it's within the clouds, okay, then it is actually as high as the clouds. And the clouds can be what, 5 to 10 miles high, maybe a little higher. Okay. So, because I actually have a PowerPoint, and I can show that. I actually have a PowerPoint showing the clouds in the midst, the sun in the midst of the clouds. Simple deduction. But my point is, I'm completely ignoring my preconditions. I'm ignoring everything I learned, and I'm acknowledging what I see through my critical thinking and through the skills that I use on a daily basis. How much time do I have, Chris?
You have, Michael, you have 7 minutes left.
Okay, I'm going to share another PowerPoint then. Okay, I guess I'm talking faster than I thought. So I am going to share another PowerPoint since my since it will not show anything else. And primary. Okay, and I'm going to share. Is it sharing? Okay. All right. So I'm going to. Sorry, folks. Oh, here we go. This is my primary. Getting kind of a preview here. This is my primary. Oops. Hold on. Okay, let me just speed through this. I'm going to show you some video of what I just described. Blah, 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 blah. Let's get through this. And then. Okay. All right. So here's what NASA says. These are light. This is a photograph, a high altitude photograph. They say it's from space. It's actually just a high altitude photograph of light beams from caused by the clouds from the sun that are horizontal, because NASA says light beams are horizontal. Actually, these are not light beams. These are shadows. Okay, these are shadows caused from the sun being at a very oblique position in relationship to the clouds. All right, some beams are parallel shafts of sunlight passing through gaps in the clouds. Their apparent convergence is a perspective effect similar, for example, to the way parallel railroad tracks seem to converge at a point in the distance. This is what NASA says. That's directly from them. Here is some shots that I took. All right, as you can see, you see the convergence, but as I move the camera, the convergence disappears. What do you know? All right, we experience this every day, but we are taught to ignore it. So as you can see, there is no convergence because I'm not parallel. My eyesight is not parallel to the tracks. But as it gets closer to being parallel, you can see that convergence. Perspective is position dependent only. There is no other way you can achieve this effect. Okay, here's a long hallway. All right, same thing. If I were to turn my body and face the wall, well, I still see the wall. I still see the lines, as you can see here. I still see the lines, but I lose this perspective effect. Perspective is position dependent only. There's I'm gonna leave that for later. Okay, so let's see. No, okay, we showed that already. Oh, all right. Craters. Okay. Here. Okay, moon craters. Craters on the moon are caused by asteroids and meteorites colliding with the lunar surface. Here's my problem with that. Okay, if they were just like I described, if they were flying in all different directions and hitting the moon, because they would be, because of space is all around, so the meteors and stuff will be flying in all different directions, they would actually hit the moon like that. Okay, so they would scrape, they would leave channels, they would leave channels through the surface of the moon and end up with this buildup of material. But according to science, they say it always hits like this every single time. Now, why do I say that? Because every crater looks like this beautiful crest. It's really attractive, actually, artistically speaking, this beautiful crest. And you see the sloping here and the hole down here. All craters look like this. You never see those channels. Craters are round impacts, not tracks, caused by angled entry. And this is a shot I took with the P900. Look at those craters. Look at them. Do you see any channels? Do you see any scraping? Do you see any long lines? Good grief, the moon should look like an Etch-a-Sketch. That's what it should look like. Or my baby granddaughter's drawings. So actually, this is not the deduction. This was for my main presentation. But my point is that as far as the moon is concerned, those craters are not created by a bunch of meteorites hitting it. Do I know what creates craters? No, I do not. We are still learning. We are still learning. We are still learning about this incredible world that we live in. And the world, meaning, the enclosed cosmology that we live in. We are still learning so much. But what I do know is that there's no evidence to show that there are massive impacts on the moon based on rocks and debris hitting it in every single direction. There's no evidence to prove that. And if I don't see evidence, I'm not going to believe it. I'm past those days. I don't do that anymore. Okay, so show me some solid evidence and I'm good. All right, not until. Chris, how much time do I have? I can't hear you.
Sorry, you have 10 seconds.
Okay, I concede my 10 seconds.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Let's go ahead. We're going to remove your that. Thad, you have a maximum of 25 minutes because you banked your rebuttal. And I'm going to set the clock. And you've got 25 minutes, or you can concede time.
If I concede it, what happens then?
It's open to the open discussion.
Okay. Now I am going to make use some of that time to make a rebuttal here. So, okay. So, this flat earther said a lot there. Of course, he did not debunk why the sun should be appearing much, much closer at noon. He used terms like magnification, angles, which I use that too, which actually destroy his position. We actually observed the sun being a little bit bigger at dawn and at dusk than at noon because of the amount of atmosphere that is the light is going through when we observe it. So, I mean, again, no answer for that. That's great. So then he moved on to the curvature of the Earth, which is cool. He had his boat experiment, which great shot on Lake Erie of boats with the P900, P1000. It's beautiful. It's amazing. So his own video actually disproves the flat Earth. It actually proves my point of the globe Earth. So if we go back to that picture of the boat that he took on Lake Erie, we got, I took one at 3 seconds and at 4 seconds. And so that part of the boat that he was talking about, it's called the hull. The part of the boat that actually touches the water is the hull. Here at 3 seconds, you see the hull. You see most of it, you know, about half of it. But at 4 seconds, where do you see that hull? Where did it disappear? So you're actually observing how far away this is. You're actually observing the curvature of the Earth right here. If the Earth was flat, that boat, since it's on water and water finds its level, it would actually be on top of that water still, just the same, roughly, as if it was on the surface if we were near it. Again, like you said, distance doesn't change physics. Here, if you're looking at that boat, it's under, it's really close to the horizon of what we can see. Is that boat sinking all of a sudden? All of a sudden, it's definitely going underwater. And if you watch the video, which is on his channel, and he kind of showed it there for a moment, it's bobbing up and down. And yeah, the hull practically disappears under the water. So are you telling me that that boat started taking in massive amounts of water because it basically just sank? That doesn't show anything other than what my position would say. Yeah, you're starting to observe the curve there. Now it's very slight because the calculation that he used for the curvature, it's what, 8 inches per mile squared. Again, a lot of flat earthers don't even look at that squared part. They look at 8 inches per mile, and they come up with this really close calculation for when we should not be able to see things anymore. Well, it's not 8 inches per mile, it's 8 inches per mile squared. That's not a straight line measurement. That is a measurement of a parabola. And so the Earth being roughly spherical, you can't use that same measurement. So here's your globe Earth, which is roughly a sphere. A parabola is not a sphere. It starts curving and exponentially gets sharper. So you got a sharp curve this way and then a sharper curve the other way. 8 inches per mile squared. Yeah, if you take into account the squared, it makes that distance much further and what we actually observe. So this is a common flat earth thing that, oh, we shouldn't be able to see this boat at all, but I can see it. Yeah, obviously the Earth is really big compared to us. This is huge. The curve is so slight, and you're just misrepresenting the calculation, the equation. That's the explanation. And again, if you look at that boat, the hull goes under the water practically. Does anyone believe that that boat started sinking or taking in water? No, it was starting to disappear. Even though I get it, the sea, the lake is choppy. It's not like it's storming or anything, just normal up and down waves. Okay. You think that boat's taking in water? There it is at 3 seconds. It's like basically underwater. You think that boat actually sinking? No way. No way. Now here's what no flat earther does. They use that they always take shots over water. Where do you ever see a flat earther take that shot on land and try to look at things on land that far away? Well, there's a lot of obstructions. We're really close to things. They always take it over water. Well, that's cool. Take it. You think that ships are taking in water that far away? No way. So his own video actually proves my point. Okay, so then let's go on to crepuscular rays, which is cool. I'm glad he brought this up. And he actually showed his experiment that he did with the pegboard, with the flashlight, with the baby powder. Really cool, except that it's a bad experiment. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. It's a bad experiment, and I'll show you why. If you go back and look at his experiment, and you see the pegboard with the light on top, and then he has the baby powder going in and coming down, right? And then says, oh, well, see, here's your crepuscular rays going out. Where are you observing it? If you were to scale things on Earth, where would you, if we were observing from where his camera is observing that baby powder, that would be way miles in the sky. No, you would have to take that camera, basically set it on the floor and have it point up and closer. Because again, to scale, this experiment's a bad experiment because nothing is to scale. And so, yeah, maybe from that height, you might observe some of that, but that's not what we observe. So I guarantee if you take that camera, put it more towards the ground, and actually get under roughly where that light is, because again, remember the sun is only like 5 miles away. That's what this flat earther believes. 5 miles away. You got to take that camera and basically put it under that mag light, then drop your baby powder. Is that what he's doing? No. It probably would be, which I'm not going to do as experiment. He can do it. Great, upload it. It's probably going to be pretty parallel. The sun, if this is the Earth and the sun, it's super duper far away, right? 92 million miles. Pretty much every ray is going to appear somewhat parallel until it hits a medium. What's the medium? The clouds. Well, no problem. As soon as it hits those clouds, of course, the rays are going to appear to diverge out based on the medium, which is a close-ish sort of cloud. No problem. No problem at all. What we observe actually is explained by the globe Earth model. The globe Earth model is really the only model that has any explanatory power. The flat Earth model has zero explanatory power. And again, I'll go back to my first point. Why is the sun not appearing much bigger? Again, no explanatory power. And he had half an hour or 45 minutes to address it. Nothing even came close. Your boy in the chat said that orange jumpsuit man's name's Nick. That's cool. He had no explanatory power. I've asked Chris and Liz to explain it privately. No explanatory power. And it's actually hard to find flat earthers out there to even ask this to, because they're just so few and far between, and most of them don't agree or get along. Because they're all, a lot of them are in circles that believe various conspiracies or different things, and they believe the earth is flat for various reasons. There's religious flat earthers, secular flat earthers, no big deal. All right, so again, his crepuscular ray experiment, just a bad experiment. How much time do I got left, Chris? Explanatory power. That's a new one for me. That's cool, bro. I love reading the chat.
You have, I'm sorry. You have 15 minutes.
Okay. You know what? I'll concede that time then to later.
Okay. Let's go ahead and Michael. Oops.
Okay, I'm going to share a screen.
Hold on, Michael.
Yeah.
You've got 16 minutes of rebuttal time.
Okay.
Okay, begin.
I am sharing a screen. And all right. Hey, I did it quick that time. Okay. So I want to mention a couple of points. First of all, I did say 8 inches per mile squared. I did say that. So The flat earthers that I know, and I know quite a few, never take the squared out of it because they all know that would be a straight line. So I don't know anyone who actually does that. Also, for I want to show a point of perspective here. So you have my terrace here; it's pretty long, and you have my camera and you have my objects. All right. So when I took a picture of them, you can see that my flower pot here, there's a base on my flower pot. It's gone. You can see the base of this my money jar here is gone. Half the dumbbell here is gone. My mic base is gone. That's due to perspective. All right. This here, Thad had mentioned that flat earthers don't shoot over land. I disagree. I've seen quite a bit of it. This is one that I did just recently within like last week. So this is a windmill, and I'm going to zoom out. This was taken from my terrace at 14 stories. So I'm zooming out, keep zooming. Now, remember, it's above the trees, so I'm not dealing with obstructions here. And it's gone. All right. So, according to science, it's beyond the curve. That windmill is about 10 miles out. Okay, so I Googled it. It's about 10 miles out. So it should be beyond the curve. It is not. Yes, I'm 14 stories. Absolutely. And I added that into the calculation because you have to do that. But I'm going to lighten it up a little. Oops. There we go. Hold on a second. I'm using PowerPoint instead of Photoshop. So, all right. So as you can see, there is no windmill. That line, that's a chimney. That's a big chimney that's nearby, but the windmill should be about right here. It's not there. All right. Let's go back. Yeah. Okay. So I'm zooming in. You don't see it yet. There it is. Wait. Hold on. Let me drop my. There we go. There it is. Then we come back. And there you have it. All right. This was a cold day. And so I didn't have to deal with a lot of there's no miraging going on. As you can see, it's a nice clear shot. There's no distortions, and it's 10 miles away. There's no way I should be seeing this, and yet I am. I don't know what to say. That's just the way it is. It's just solid evidence. Let's see. Let's see. The crepuscular ray experiment. Okay. Talk to anyone in the theater, just like I said, anyone in the theater, talk to any meteorologist. A meteorologist is not going to admit that the sun is close, but he will admit that he will admit what you need to create crepuscular rays. My experiment was quite accurate because if you look at my experiment and then you look at the street light photo that I showed, they were basically the same, just a different scale. You don't need to be underneath the light source. That's the whole point. You don't have to be underneath the light source in order to experience that phenomenon, to view that phenomenon with the light beams coming down like that. I proved that with many photographs, many videos. I was never underneath the light source. When I did my experiment, I was not underneath the light source, yet you still saw the light beams. I don't know what else to say. There is no other way to create crepuscular rays. If you were to do it on your own, and if you notice, I actually proved what heliocentric science says, that if the light source is far away, then your light beams are going to be horizontal. That is not what we experience in creation. And another thing, if you do this experiment and if you use something like this, a small, intense light source, you're going to get those crepuscular rays. If you use something like this, okay, or the studio lights I'm using to light the room, if you use something like this, it will not work, which is fascinating because the bigger the light source, those rays are virtually non-existent. It only works with a small, tiny light, small and intense light source. It has to have both. It has to have a lot of power and it has to be small. Try and use a large light source. It simply will not work. Okay. I forgot to mention that part, and that fascinated me when that happened. So the experiment was a legitimate experiment and it worked. There's no way. Matter of fact, if I had gone under the light source, I'd have simply gotten this. Okay. I've just been blinded. You're not going to see any light beams. Okay. You're just going to see a light. All right. That's not how it works. Okay. Chris, how much time do I have?
You have 9 minutes.
Okay. As far as the sun, again, I actually did answer that question. Atmospheric lensing. Unfortunately, I do not have visual evidence. But atmospheric lensing prevents one from seeing the way the sun shrinks down. I know other people that have shot it. Unfortunately, I do not have that video. It's no excuse. I'm sorry. But I actually did answer. The answer is not satisfactory to that. Understood, but I did answer it. Let's see. I think I covered as much. Okay. Chris, I concede my time.
Okay. All right. So here we go. Okay, guys. All right. So we have.
Could I really quick just rebut what he said to address it real quick? If possible.
Go for it.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
you got 10 minutes, Bank. So go ahead.
Okay. So with the crepuscular rays, of course, they're not understanding. It doesn't matter where your light source is. The point is that it's hitting a close-ish object, which would be the clouds. So I mean, it's not a big deal to me as a globe earther that there's crepuscular rays going out because the cloud is close-ish. And that's what really matters. That's where the magnifying is happening. So again, it was a bad experiment, and they're saying, well, a bad experiment's better than no experiment. No, actually it's not, because a bad experiment gives you bad conclusion, misinformation. And so, and this is a big deal to this flat earther, because he did this experiment at home, he started with the conclusion, worked backwards to support it. This is bad science. And then did a bad experiment, and then is further entrenched in his viewpoint. I'm sorry, it's just not good, dude. Anyway, and real quick, he was talking about, he was trying to address, he said, oh, I answered why your sun, stays the same. Yeah, you answered it, but you're still not explaining why the sun doesn't appear 6 times bigger at noon. You can talk about atmospheric magnification and everything. It doesn't explain why the sun doesn't appear much, much bigger at noon. Perspective and all that? Yeah, I agree. We should be experiencing some noticeable change, though, during the day, and we just don't observe it. What was the other thing? The first thing that he said, I forget what he said at the beginning of that rebuttal, but I didn't write it down. Never mind. All right, what's next, Chris?
We're going to go into the final round. So we roughly have just about 50 minutes now. We've banked a lot of time for this. So this is going to be, okay, so you guys have to be on your best behavior here. Michael, you need to unmute yourself. I am going to try to be fair to both parties. Everybody knows that I host a show with Michael Solomon. So if I am unfair and I'm showing favor to Michael, call me out in the chat room. But what we're going to do here, we're going to do a question and answer round. Thad will be able to ask Michael a question. Michael, you'll be able to ask Thad a question. Let's try not to speak over each other too much. It's going to happen. It's natural. We get it. But too much, that's where I'm just going to step in and mute your mic. So when the mic's mute, just understand, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just trying to keep this on par. So, Thad, you went first, so we're going to start with you as well for this final round. This will be the final round. You start question to Michael, and I think I know what the question's going to be. So
You think so?
I do. So Thad, go right for it. You've got it.
All right. So you actually think that the sun is 5 miles away from the surface of the Earth?
The height varies. Because the sun, it does not have a flat circuit based on seasons, but based on seeing a multitude, and I've shot them myself. As a matter of fact, I shot a picture of the sun in the midst of the clouds even before I was a flat earther. I didn't know what I was seeing. So based on visual evidence, if the sun is in the midst of the clouds and the clouds are 5 to 10 miles high, ergo, the sun is 5 to 10 miles high, which leads you on a domino effect of conclusions.
So, okay, my first conclusion is, why aren't planes crashing into the sun then?
I have an answer to that.
Okay.
You're not going to like it. Okay, this world was created, and I know you don't believe that anymore. I'm sorry to hear that, by the way. This world is created, okay? It's created by a pretty genius guy named Yahweh, okay? And he created this place. And what you are seeing when you see the world is some pretty high-end tech, okay? Because when you read scripture, and especially when you have a personal relationship with him, then you realize that he built this place in a way that is pretty phenomenal. As far as a sun, as far as a plane not being able to reach the sun, it seems to me, and this is just a theory, but it seems to me that the sun can be observed, can be quantified, can be measured to a certain extent, but it can't be touched.
Why?
It seems to be a no touch tech, I guess.
Why?
Why? Because I can't presume to say, and I know this sounds like a cop-out to a person who does not believe in God, but in Yahweh, I cannot presume to understand everything he does. But I will say this, though, that there's just so much he wants us to know right now. Because let me say one more thing. There is one thing that's interesting that I found out about conventional science. They claim to know so much, and they really don't. Okay, there's just so much that they're not clear on.
That's the beauty of scientists. They don't claim to know everything.
No. I didn't say they know everything.
Only Christians claim to know what's going on.
when I first found out that scientists claimed that perspective was the dominant reason we experience corpuscular rays, I laughed out loud. I said, it can't be this easy. It can't be. They actually believe that? Okay. And that led me on a serious road of discovery.
Okay.
Before we get to the next question.
Why is the sun only 5 miles away and you can't touch it?
Well, let me ask a question to that really quick. On both sides of the party, really quick to both of you guys.
Chris, do you believe the Earth is only 5 miles away from the sun?
I don't even know what I believe in that regards. Michael makes an interesting point.
He's the only one I've ever heard that ever say
he
that.
Does.
So you got to forgive me.
Let me ask you guys a question.
That idea is crazy.
Let me go to that.
But why is it crazy?
Hold on. Let me
explain it.
Let me just ask this premise question. So when it comes to science not knowing an answer, it's okay. Why is it not okay for a flat earther not to know the question? I'm just asking for both parties. Why do you guys think that is, really quickly? On both sides, because we could be 95% done, as Michio Cochran says, or Neil deGrasse Tyson will say that we know nothing about space. We know like this little bit, but why do we have to have all the answers when we don't even know this bit?
You don't have to have all the answers. It's that a lot of Christians are very arrogant in saying, well, we have all truth and it's in the Bible and God tells us what's going on.
But don't you think scientists believe the same thing?
But scientists generally are more humble than Christians, because when they don't know something, they just say, I don't know. It happens all the time. I don't have to know, because now if they're making truth claims on things that they don't know, yes, that's a problem. But only science debunks science. Religion never debunks science, because science and really scientists are just people. Science is just the accumulation of human knowledge. And so a scientist from 400 years ago could do an experiment, come up with something, and it looks good. And another scientist last week could take that, redo it, and debunk it. And the scientific community would publish a paper, it'd be headline news. Boom. Because and it's fine. That's what's supposed to happen, because only science debunks science. And we're constantly refining it. It's peer reviewed. I mean, it's one of the most strenuously and vigorously tested things that we have. But religion says, oh, we don't have to do science. We just know everything based on the Bible. Bible says that the earth is flat. I just believe it. God said it. I believe it. That settles it. Actually, some will say, God said it. That settles it. That doesn't explain anything. That does not, that's just arrogant.
Michael,
okay.
You want to answer that? Well, you want to answer that question, Michael? What the 5 mile question? Because I don't think you really answer that.
Actually, I did. It's simple deduction. Okay, and the only problem with my conclusion is that it smacks in the face of science. All right, and so therefore it sounds crazy in light of that knowledge base. But I did explain it, that if the clouds are 5 to 10 miles high and the sun and the moon are in the midst of the clouds, front and back, okay, if clouds are behind the sun or the moon, then that means the sun and the moon are in the midst of the clouds, which means it has to be 5 or 10 miles high. It's just simple deduction. Now, I wanted to answer.
Let me interject 1 second, because your boy in the chat, Be the Change, has a good point here.
Okay.
That Mount Everest is almost 5 miles up. How come the sun doesn't crash into the summit of Mount Everest?
Remember, I said that the sun does not stay at the same level. Okay. It does not stay at the same level. I wanted to comment also.
Well, how do you know it doesn't stay at the same level?
Seasons. That's how you would explain seasons. It makes sense.
The flat Earth only says that the sun is moving in and out to create seasons, not up and down.
No.
Does anyone on Earth observe the sun going up and closer? No, it stays the same throughout the day. Nobody observes that.
Okay. You have to add in the distortion of vanishing point. I use it on a daily basis. I don't know what to say. I make a living off of it. Okay.
Just say you don't know.
I can't say that because I just gave you an answer.
I don't know.
I did say I don't know what caused craters. I don't know. Okay, but I know what doesn't do it. When they say meteors smash into it, that just doesn't work. There's no evidence to prove that. Okay. Also, I never used religion. I am not religious. I have a relationship. I never use religion. I don't actually believe in religion.
It's not a religion. It's a relationship, right?
It's a relationship.
That's a cop-out.
No, that just happens to be a fact. Dude, you turn your back on it. What can I say?
It's religion.
Okay, I get it. But you turn your back on it. I didn't.
Religion.
All right.
I turn my back on the Bible for very good reason. And yeah, flat Earth is one of those reasons.
Okay, so all right, we're gonna go to question number 2. Okay, it's getting heated. All right, no muting. So we've done well on that first one. Michael, you threw some zingers out there too. You attacked his belief system.
I did not.
A little bit. I'm just being fair.
Okay. Okay.
So here we go. We're gonna go. Michael, you've got a question now for Thad.
you mentioned that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that if you aren't a scientist, you can't critique science. It,
Did I say that?
or you said only scientists can critique science.
That's
I'm
not what I
sorry.
said.
What was your statement?
I said only science debunks science.
Okay. So when you say that, are you saying that you have to be a scientist to debunk science?
What is a scientist?
A person that accumulates knowledge.
Exactly. Isn't wouldn't that be fair to say that that's pretty much everyone, every human?
True.
We accumulate knowledge. So I mean, everyone can be a scientist, just like everyone can be a philosopher. It's not like you one person is not able to do science and another is.
Well, flat earthers are scientists then.
Sure. Now
Okay.
they do bad science, as evidenced by your corpuscular ray with the baby powder theorem or theory or experiment. It's just a bad experiment. And
Why?
here's what we see.
But why?
Because okay, I'll explain it again.
Okay.
In your experiment, the camera that you used is looking down at that baby powder.
No,
To put
it
that
wasn't.
in perspective, we would,
It was
as
perfectly
humans,
straight.
we
It was
would
straight.
have to be miles high. Like you did a bad scale experiment. Put the camera on the ground looking up and move that camera real close to scale of where a 5-mile sun would be. Okay, then it would be a better experiment. And I'm not, saying that you are just, whacked out or crazy for doing that experiment. I'm glad you did that experiment, but here's the beauty of science. Just me, I can look at that and be like, that needs peer reviewed, and there's actually some things that you missed. Let's redo the experiment and let's let science debunk your science.
But see my point, but see my
right?
problem.
Isn't that fair?
My problem with your comment is I actually created corpuscular rays. I actually created them, doing
cool.
exactly what I said would happen. And also, I did not go into the experiment with a preconceived.
It doesn't prove the Earth is flat.
No. What? Remember, I said there's direct and indirect evidence to support enclosed cosmology, because corpuscular rays is an indirect, because it proves that the sun is indirect. It proves that the sun is close. If the sun is close, then it can't be in space. If it can't be in space, there's no solar system. It's simple deduction.
And it's 5 miles away.
5 to 10.
Crazy.
But it's crazy in light of heliocentrism.
Absurd.
In light of heliocentrism, correct?
Okay, so it's weird when only
but
when
in
you hear
light
an
of
idea from only
heliocentrism.
one person, right? Isn't that weird?
What?
Because I've never heard anyone say that the sun is only 5 miles away. That in and of itself is a red flag. Like, maybe
you know what I have a problem with the 3,000 miles? You know what I have a problem with the sun being 3,000 miles? Okay, I can't read a license plate 3 houses away from me. Okay, how the heck am I going to see 3,000 miles away? Exactly.
Except on, okay, hang on one second. Except on a flat Earth with the sun above it, you should be able to see that sun all day long.
No.
But you have to say, oh, there's
vanishing
some sort
point.
Of mysterious magical spotlight.
Vanishing
effect.
Point.
No.
Vanishing point.
What I'm saying is, if the sun is only 5 miles away, oh my gosh,
right.
like that spotlight would be extremely small. And that's not what
based on what?
Show. It's not like half the Earth roughly is illuminated during day.
No, based on my experiment with corpuscular ray. Remember, I said you cannot use a big broad light. You have to use a small intense light that supports the sun being more of a not an omni light, but more of a directional light. Also, you
is that how light works? It only moves in certain places. No, light goes everywhere. Light
that depends on the light.
Where does the light go? It goes in.
That depends on the light.
Degrees.
Okay, I'm a 3D animator. Okay, I will use omnidirectional light, or I will use a spotlight that has a specific direction. Okay, It depends on the light, how light radiates. All right.
Yeah.
Also, the human eye cannot resolve an image beyond the vanishing point. Okay. It doesn't matter what
Sure, there's
science says.
instructions. Yeah.
You cannot do that. So the sun or in the moon, when it moves across the plane of the earth, we are experiencing the distortion of a vanishing point. Okay. That's why the sun appears like it's disappearing.
Except that light doesn't work that way.
What do you mean?
You would still see the light. At
No.
some point, you would still see daylight.
Light fall off, or the inverse squared law. Okay. Light fall off. Light diminishes from the source very fast, very quickly. The sun is no different. That's why you need, okay, like for instance, in your living room, how many light sources do you have?
Hold on a second.
Okay.
So, okay, let's put that to the test real quick. Your
Sure.
claim. I'm sure that you've flown in a regular commercial aircraft.
Sure.
And you've looked out the window
Mm-hmm.
at 30,000 feet, 36,000 feet, who knows? You can still see lights on the ground. That's farther away than the sun, than your sun. And I can still see that light from the ground. According to your theory, you shouldn't be able to see that light because it would have dispersed. But no, I can see city lights from the ground.
Okay, well, you have to take into account
And
scale.
that's further away.
Okay, now
smaller.
And also
That's
the city
crazy.
lights, the city lights are point lights. You're looking at light as one single source. City lights are point lights, especially from, first of all, city lights are point lights to begin with, period. Okay, second of all, when you're really high up, then that point light becomes a smaller point. The sun is a broad spotlight. Okay, light fall off, or the inverse square law, okay, dictates that light diminishes in intensity as it travels away from the source. Now that light fall off rate depends on the amount, on the size and intensity of the light. I'm a photographer. I use this all the time. Okay. If you go into your living room, how many lights do you have to illuminate your living room?
I have like 6.
Okay. What if you only had one? Okay. The light fall off, because of the light fall off of that lamp, even if you took the shade off, it doesn't matter. It would shed more light, but you're still going to have dark places in that room. That's why you have to have multiple lights. That's how light works. It doesn't work in any other way.
And that's fine. But according to your theory, I shouldn't be able to see city lights from the ground of that plane, that commercial plane. Because you're saying as the sun moves further away, well, that's why we don't see it. When I should be able to see, there's no physical obstructions. You're saying, well, you can't see it across the on the other side of the world because, well, the light fell off.
Right.
Well, if the sun's only 5 miles away from the surface of the earth, I mean, come on. It's not what we observe. I'm sorry.
It is. You observe it every day.
A light source that's even more powerful than city lights. So I'm sorry, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And you can use ad hoc arguments here, but that's all they are, is ad hoc.
That's another thing
using
too.
savior arguments.
I actually prefer the zetetic method of discovery opposed to the scientific method. The scientific method, you need to actually kind of think of a theory before you can even do it. I prefer to observe
what your observation will be. There's nothing wrong with guessing it. That's okay.
Okay, sure.
Good.
I just don't prefer that method. I prefer to actually see something and evaluate according to what I see, and especially if I can reproduce it.
But see, I don't think you actually do that. I think you're starting with the conclusion and you're going backwards. You're doing experiments to support your conclusion. That's bad science, whether it's scientific method or zetetic.
Well,
you're not doing it right. And again, what is the end game? It's to make the Bible true.
Well,
that's a bad conclusion.
Can I ask you a question?
I never said that.
Pause. One quick question. Is it bad? So if Michael has that premise, let's say he does, is it bad science when the Michelson-Morley experiment set out with the premise to prove because they believe that the Earth spun.
Am I debating Chris?
Oh, no, you're not debating me. I'm just asking a question.
Moderator question.
No, I'm just asking. Science does that all the time. So even if Michael did do that, what is the issue with Michael doing it and okay with science doing that? I'm just going to ask a fair question there.
What's starting with the conclusion?
Yeah, that's what they're doing. And if Michael's doing that, why are you pinning it against him if you believe he's done that? Even though he's saying he's not doing that.
I'm not saying that people don't do that, but that's why we have peer review for scientists that actively try to disprove it. It's called falsifying it. You have to have a falsifiable experiment. So yeah, that's why we have peer review. Scientists will read what another scientist does and then try to falsify it. And if they can, that's where we have our check and balance system of what passes and what doesn't. If it's not falsifiable, it doesn't mean it immediately makes it. It means that, usually it's tested quite a bit. It's actually the best method that we have, and that's why we have such advances that we do today, is because of the scientific method.
Okay,
it's not a bad thing.
Okay, here's my problem with peer review. My problem is the basis of the knowledge base that they use, the foundation that they use to evaluate the results of your experiment. Case in point, the moon. All right, the moon is supposed to reflect sunlight. All right,
it does.
Okay, that's a ridiculous claim.
Why?
And my point is this, and you're going to see it in my primary presentation tomorrow.
You think the light gives the moon makes its own light?
Hold on, let me.
You're
finish.
Not seriously saying that.
Wait, I'm not done yet. So here's my problem. On a fluke, I was shooting some pictures of the moon, and I was sitting there. It's a fun thing to do, so I'm shooting pictures. Now I'm a photographer. In order to get proper color in a scene, you do what's called white balancing. Any professional, heck, a cell phone does it now.
Yeah, you did it with the teddy bear. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So I did the same thing with the moon.
Uh-huh.
Just for fun, I white balanced the moon, and it shocked me because the moon ended up 4,000 degrees Kelvin. That's the same color temperature as fluorescent light. Now, here's my problem with that. When you have an object that's reflecting sunlight or any light, any type of light, okay, that object is going to reflect the same color temperature as the source. The reflected light does not change color temperature of the source. It remains the same. Now, it's going to be a dimmer light because it's reflecting, but it will not change color temperature. The sun is 5,500 degrees Kelvin.
Okay. So how does that make the Earth flat, though?
Okay. What that shows. Okay. Well, we were talking about peer reviews. We were talking about peer reviews. Okay. So what I'm saying is this. Now, I know every scientist will tell me the moon reflects. I could chop that up all day long. The moon reflects the sun. Well, first of all, the light that's reflecting is completely opposite of the sun. Okay, it's the different color temperature. It's a different physical temperature. It's a different type of light. And also, if the moon reflects the sun, the moon is supposed to be a sphere. Okay, so therefore, when you shine a light on a sphere, you get a specular highlight, and then you get fall off along the edges. You never see that in the sun. Okay, especially on a full moon. The moon. You always see the full moon lit from edge to edge. A sphere does not light that way, ever. That's not how it works. Okay. So everything that they say about the moon, but when you observe it, it's the complete opposite. So they end up telling you, oh, it's an illusion. Okay. And they don't support their claim. So simple observation disproves it. Now, they can peer review that all they want, but it doesn't change the fact that that big thing up there is 4,000 degrees Kelvin. Okay. Now they'll never tell you that. All right. Because most of them don't even know. They never bothered to color balance the moon. So
okay. Again, I don't see how that makes the Earth flat though. And you know that light can change color. I mean, when we see a rainbow, light is going through
I'm
water and
talking color
clouds,
temperature.
and it
Color
changes
temperature,
into
a
red
whole
and
different
blue
ball
and,
game.
you know.
Color temperature, a whole different ball game. Because this is orange, but it can have a different color temperature than you would think. Color temperature is different from physical temperature. That's not what I'm referring to.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, physical color. That's not what I'm referring to. So
Okay, cool.
it doesn't support it.
Somehow that makes the Earth flat, though?
No, what that shows is that conventional science cannot be trusted the way we were taught it should be trusted. If something is common, if they got the moon, something as common as that wrong. I mean, they got it completely wrong.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it, dude. I'm not seeing that all of science is messed up.
I didn't say that.
But
I didn't say that.
Right.
I didn't say all of science. I said it does not have complete and absolute trust that they're trying to say that they should have, because they're not.
I don't know that any scientist is saying you have to put your complete absolute trust. That they actually say
Oh, I've heard quite a few of them say that, dude.
No, because that's the whole point of scientific journals is they love disproving each other. That's what makes the headlines.
Until a flat earther starts talking.
Science. That's what makes it so good. It's such a competitive environment. They love it.
Not really. Not within their own world.
I mean, you're proving it yourself right now because you're trying to disprove what scientists say. That's a natural human thing. Now take that and multiply it by millions of people trying to disprove other people. I mean, and what have we come to the conclusion? Definitely not your conclusion. Definitely not that the sun is 5 miles above Earth.
Of course not.
So
the moon is its own light source. And by the way, I am saying the moon is its own light source.
You're kind of like incoherent and you're like off on like a really rabbit trail compared to the rest of scientists.
Why?
Because nobody is saying that the sun is only 5 miles above the planet.
So
that's okay.
I don't understand. Well, why does someone else have to say it?
What does that mean then? If that's your truth claim that the sun is 5 miles above the surface of the Earth,
due to evidence, empirical evidence, yes,
massive conclusions that can be brought. There's like consequences to that. Yes. Again, planes would be flying into the sun.
No,
we could reach it.
No,
but again, why can't we touch it? You just said I don't know. It doesn't.
I don't know.
Sense. It doesn't make sense.
I have a theory, but I don't know. Hey, what can I say? I don't know everything, but I've learned quite a bit since 2015.
Like you don't have a theory. Theories in science are like the top tier of where science goes. Like, flight theory, that we can fly planes, like germ theory. That's the top tier. You don't have a theory. At best, you have a guess or a hypothesis.
No, I do not. I have experiments.
You're misusing the term theory.
Corpuscular rays, I proved it. You just choose not to believe it, but I proved it. You're
using the colloquial term of theory. You're not using the scientific term.
I guarantee you, if you did the corpuscular, let's say the corpuscular ray experiment, if you did it your way, you would fail. I guarantee you. I'll bet money on it. You would fail.
That I would actually make the camera be the similar perspective of humans.
If you did it your way,
why is
you
that
would
a
fail.
problem?
If you did it your way, you would fail. If you had some giant light source far away from the obstruction, you would fail.
I'm not trying to prove that corpuscular rays don't exist. We know they exist.
Oh, no, I didn't say they don't exist. I said the reason why they exist is not what science says.
And that's what I'm saying is crazy that you're saying they exist because the sun's only 5 miles above the surface of the Earth. That is nuts. That is something that's falsifiable. Michael, why don't you get a pilot's license and go fly next to the sun? Like Icarus in Greek mythology, go too close to the sun and see what happens. Why don't you do that?
I tell you what, since I can't get a pilot's license, I'm good at what I do. I have no intention of getting another career. Why don't you do something simple? Perform the experiment. Create corpuscular rays your way.
Okay.
And record it. See if it works.
Yeah, I'm just not going to do it.
I didn't think so. But I did. Okay. I did. I not only did it my way, I mean, not my way, but I did it based on what I see, but I also did it the way scientists say it should work, and it didn't.
Hey, we got Karen C in the chat that does have a pilot's license. Hey, Karen C, you gonna go chase the sun down?
Okay.
Is the sun 5 miles away?
So here's what we got. Here's what we do before we start bringing in the people in the chat, which is going to be a great idea. Let's go ahead and do that. I think we're going to have one more question each for each other. Let's try to wrap that up. I'm going to let the audience be able to ask Thad a question, and Michael, you can respond to that, and Thad, and you guys can ask Michael a question as well. So go ahead and start spouting off the best questions. We'll put up there. We'll start talking about that. So we did a lot of dialogue on that one. I don't know if that was Michael's question or Thad's question.
I liked the Be the Change question. He said Everest is about 5 miles up. Why isn't the sun crashing into the summit of Everest?
Because
that's a good question.
Hold on, where is that question?
I said 5 to 10.
Up.
I said the sun does not remain at a specific elevation.
So it changes its elevation based on who's looking at it?
No,
that's
of course
crazy.
not. No, I didn't say that.
So why does it change elevation and where? How can we? Is the sun a sentient being that it changes arbitrarily?
No, there is no evidence to show that the sun is a sentient being.
Thank you. It's like the first thing you said that isn't crazy.
No, it's the first thing I said that you choose to agree with. But no.
Hey, we agreed on something.
Oh, okay.
What's great is you agreed with me, which means there's hope for you.
No, not that kind of hope. God, no. I've been where you are. I mean, not the atheist part. I've never been there. But I have been a heliocentrist. I didn't start down this road till 2015. So I believed in all that stuff. Okay. So I was there.
Cool.
Here we go. Here's a great question. All right. Whoever wants to take this first. How can you prove the distance to the sun and that it is physical and what it is made of?
You want to take it or shall I?
Excellent question.
The distance of the sun can be observed, okay? If one is willing to admit to what you see, the existence of the sun can be observed. As far as what it's made of, there's one thing that I find interesting about the sun. Now, check this out, and this is going to sound crazy too. You know what a fireplace feels like. You know what fire actually feels like, okay? And then you feel the sunlight. Both types of heat feels different, which is really interesting. I'm not making a claim per se. I'm just saying that a fireplace heat and the sun heat feels different. Now, what's interesting is if you take an electric heater heat and then you go out on a bright sunny day and you feel direct sun, the heat of the sun tends to feel more like the electric heater than the fireplace. I find that interesting. Okay, since the sun is not a giant, humongous, burning ball of fire in the ever-expanding cosmos, what the heck is it? Okay, I don't know what it's made of. Okay, all I know is what I observe, and I accept what I observe.
Is the sun a sphere or is it a disk?
I think it's a disk. I don't think it's a sphere at all.
Let's be very clear on something when it comes to the sun. I think everybody can agree to this if we're honest. No one knows what the sun is made of because no one's ever touched it.
Nope, no one knows.
Right?
No one knows.
But according to Michael, we should be able to touch it.
No, I never said that. I said I think it's no touch technology. I never said you could touch the sun.
But wait, that doesn't make sense. If we can reach it, if a plane can be over it even, that means that a plane could theoretically go run right into it.
But the difference is
how come no one's ever done it?
The difference between you and I is that I actually believe in a supreme creator. You don't. So
how does that explain anything? That doesn't debunk that you should be able to touch the sun at 5 miles.
Well,
You're not
try it.
explaining anything. You're
I
just
guess you could try it
invoking
and see.
an
It's not going to
ad hoc,
happen. You won't be able to
which
touch
is
it.
magic. A creator, a magic creator. You're just invoking it.
No,
That's bad
dude.
science.
No,
Bad
it's not
science.
magic. Dude, we could talk about this subject. It's not magic. I can show you some stuff.
I
can tell you some things. It's not
magic.
magic.
Is things happening for unexplained reasons.
No.
So we can't touch the sun that was close for unexplained reasons.
I mean,
That's
sure, if you want to
magic.
call it magic, that's fine. I just call it severe tech.
The sun has some magical force field.
No, no.
That doesn't make sense. That's crazy. Come on.
This comment is very interesting.
What's that?
Everyone sees the sun from a different position at all times.
Not the sun in a different position. We might change. The sun is where it is. Or roughly like if you were over here, again, and change position closer to it, you're only getting closer by a few thousand miles, not by a close person 5 miles away. The sun 92 million miles away is moving a person from here to over here. It's not that much comparatively as a scale. It's not that big of a difference.
Of course, in heliocentrism, yes, I agree with you. In that system, sure. But
everyone's seeing the sun from a different position at all times literally doesn't prove anything. Like, I agree with your statement, but it doesn't it reaches no conclusion. Like, yes, I agree. And
it leads you on a domino. It leads you on a domino effect of conclusions. When you're trying to figure out a mystery, you do not just find just one piece of proof. Okay, that's it. I'm done. Go eat dinner. No, you're going to end up with a collection of evidence, a preponderance of evidence to support a conclusion. All right. And some of that evidence is direct, some is indirect.
No, I get it.
That's true.
Not being able to explain something doesn't make it magic. No, I get that. I get that. But that's what I'm saying is Christians use the magic response all the time. Well, it just happens. Like, and
but
Michael,
I never said that.
This letter, there's using it right here by supporting a flat Earth viewpoint, making a truth claim that the sun is 5 miles up, yet we can't touch it because, well, I say that's invoking a magic response.
Okay.
Some magical force field.
Okay. By the same token.
So can anyone touch the magical force field that's
okay,
near the
hold
sun
on.
at 5 miles?
By the same token, there's a force that science swears by, but you can't measure it, you can't control it, you can't modify it, you can't mitigate it, and yet they say it exists. Okay. Every other force, every other phenomenon or natural force in the world, heat, light, fire, water, you can control it, you can measure it, you can interact with it. Every single force except gravity. Yeah, that's magic. You can't touch it, you can't, but they tell you what it does, but you can't measure it, you can't meter it, you can't control it, but everything else in creation you can. Okay, I find that interesting. That's magic.
Just because humans can't manipulate gravity does not make it magic.
Well, I'm going by your.
You know that humans couldn't manipulate the power of flight that birds had. And when people started trying to fly, oh, well, man's not meant to fly. That's magic. No, we figured it out. It's not magic. We can fly. There's this thing called drag, and there's this thing called lift, and you can actually manipulate it.
So you're saying
that's what I'm saying. Like, science debunks science, and science debunks religion, but religion does never debunk science. Never has it once.
Well, you know what? I totally agree with you. Religion can't debunk science. Religion is too busy being religious. All right.
Agreed.
But I'm not religious.
That's why nobody has changed theology in 2,000 years, because the book hasn't changed. Yet science is constantly changing. It's movable. It's advancing. But theology and religion, it's done. It's over.
Okay, but see, you're mixing things. You're mixing scripture with religion. Those are two completely different subjects. Completely different. You can't
They
mix
can
the
be,
two.
but all scripture is religious. Not all
No, it
religion
is
is
not.
scripture.
Okay, so
It is
hold
not.
on. We're getting right to the end of so that was great. You guys
Okay.
did wonderful. I'm gonna thank Michael and Thad for that Q&A session. It could have went all sorts of different directions. You guys super
I'm
mature.
trying to be
great.
respectful. You
Hey,
know,
you did-
I'm attacking the ideas, not
Okay.
this person.
Hey, you guys are doing great. So I want to end. I'm going to let you both speak because we're talking about cosmology and we're getting into the spiritual. And Thad, your story is when you understood that the Bible was a flat Earth book, it began you opening the Bible, questioning the Bible, ultimately leaving the Bible. I want both of you. What you guys are going to end on. This part is not debatable. This is your guys' opinions, and I want you guys both to share it. Your cosmology stance and your cosmology worldview, how does that shape your spiritual outlook and where you stand today, and how somebody looking at this, how they should view your model in regards of their spiritual journey?
So you're right. I started questioning the Bible back in July of 2017 when I contacted you based on your flat Earth post that I saw on Facebook. You forwarded me the 130-page PDF from Rob Skiba. I got about halfway through it by October, and I realized, yep, Bible's a flat Earth book, 100%. Rocked my world. It was like a spell broke. It was great. But then I had a problem. Is the world actually flat? It took me 2 days to figure it out because I couldn't use pictures of space. I couldn't use NASA. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Okay, whatever. There's got to be some way to figure it out. And you know what? It only took me 2 days to come up with, that the sun should really be a lot closer at noon if it's moving parallel to the surface of the Earth. It not just a little bit. It should be much closer at noon if it's coming much closer to us. And you know what? That was the biggest thing. Like I said, I've asked plenty of flat earthers. None of them can answer it satisfactorily. And yeah, I said, what do I do? Something's got to go. Either the globe's got to go or the Bible. And I said, Bible's got to go.
So and here's the question, the big question. So do you believe that the true version of which is the heliocentric model in your belief system, that will take people away from the silliness of the scriptures and push them towards the mindset of where you're at? Where do you encourage people to look? Where do you encourage people to go with your belief system, and what does it ultimately do?
I don't really encourage anybody to do anything. There's no imperative on me like a Great Commission imperative to do anything. It's Christians that have this Great Commission imperative. The burden is on them by Jesus to go and convert people to their mindset. I don't have that imperative. I say you can believe whatever you want to believe. If being a Christian makes you a good and better person to live with in society, then be a Christian. If you're a Buddhist, a Muslim, and it helps you be better, then believe what you want to believe. That's your human right to believe it. But if you care about what's true, you're going to have to put your scriptures to the test, the Book of Mormon, the Quran, the Bible. You're going to have to put it to the test because they make truth claims. Once you put them to the test, you're going to find that they fail miserably. Flat Earth being a huge one for the Bible. Just giant face palm. Ancient knowledge, which that was one thing I was going to say. This flat earther brought up that ancient civilizations all believed that the earth was flat. Yeah, that's great. No problem. The Greeks believed it. The Egyptians believed it. The Sumerians believed it. The Jews believed it. It doesn't make them right by consensus. That's a fallacy.
But wait a minute, you said science does the same thing. That's just peer review.
This is
okay.
his section. The debate is over.
Okay.
So no, we're not going to do that. Michael, you're going to get so your cosmology stance. What did it do for you? And you get to end on that point. And then I think if you guys are up to it, we'll ask the question at the end. You guys think about it while we're doing this. We could do this maybe sometime down the road again and hit some different points
Right.
of view of this
Just be respectful of people. We're all sharing space on this planet. So believe what you want to believe as long as you're not hurting someone else. Typically what happens though is that Christians with their Great Commission, they have to shove it in other people's faces. And that's where I have a problem. You cannot bother other people. And if you are, that's where we're going to have friction. There's going to be a problem. And there has been over centuries problems with Christians, problems with Muslims, even shoving it in people's faces. But you don't really see that with people that are atheists, like it's fine, and there's atheists that do. Hey, that's because there's not one central like atheist, hub. But for Christians, there kind of is, but they're scattered. I mean, there's so many different denominations, you can't really keep track of them. And no two Christians agree on anything. They're all fighting each other anyway. And so it's like, let the Christians fight it out, man.
But I think we all can agree that the Bible is a flat earth book. Okay, Michael.
I do agree with that.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Michael, you
from
got
Genesis to Revelation, it is a flat earth book.
Yep. Extra biblical books as well.
And as Sean would say, who he's woohoo.
We don't get to Sean.
Yeah, even his apocryphal books, yep, flat earth, no problem.
Yep. Okay, Michael, you share that point, and then we're going to end, and then we'll see if we could do this down the road. I think it was very interesting for the listeners and the watchers, and this is going to be kicking off a debate show that we're going to be doing here on the channel. And so it's going to be a lot of
If Sean ever wants to go duke it out again,
hey, I have needed a moderator. Okay, I've kept you in check because you needed to check on that. You were great here. That one, you guys are both pushing each other's button. Maybe.
Hey, I just didn't let him bully me around. That's all. He's not used to having people actually stand up to him. That's why.
All right, go ahead, Michael.
You mean how cosmology has affected my what's the question?
How your cosmological view has affected your spiritual journey.
Oh, okay. I've been a Christian my entire life, and the reason why I'm a Christian is due to empirical evidence. My life has been ruled by it. I gave Yahweh a chance, and he proved his point quite well. Quite well. So therefore, I've been a Christian my whole life, but I have not been a flat earther. I have not been an enclosed cosmologist because I believe what I was taught. Once I learned the truth, that truth of scripture, that simply enhanced my relationship with Yahweh, which is a personal one. The only reason I'm a Christian is because of empirical evidence. I'm not interested in a religion. I'm not interested in giving my life over to something that does not exist. I mean, I could just believe in Harry Potter. Okay. I don't do that. I believe in Yahweh because he's real. I mean, as real as we are sitting here. Oh, yeah, I noticed that. Okay. And that's coincidental. I did not mean to say that because you had it there. But
Ron Weasley.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I noticed the red hair. But I am enclosed cosmology has enhanced my relationship with the Messiah. It has enhanced my knowledge of scripture. It has made it far more real. In the churches, they teach, oh, God lives in another dimension, because most churches are believing the heliocentric model. I mean, I don't know if people actually understand that. Most churches do not believe in enclosed cosmology. And so I was taught heliocentrism in church, and that leaves a lot of problems, the doctrine of accommodation and all that foolishness, where they actually teach you that because they believe in heliocentrism, God has to be in another dimension, kind of like the Mormons say he lives on the planet Kolob. Okay. That's hilarious. They could have come up with a better name than that. Kolob. I mean, seriously, dude, I'm a sci-fi
The Mormons
fan.
have problems, man.
It's a terrible name. But my relationship with Christ has been magnified. I was about to say enhanced, but it's more magnified because of the knowledge of enclosed cosmology. One of the things that I found that's pretty fascinating is that Now I know he doesn't live in another dimension or any of that foolishness. He's really, really close. I mean, he was always close because of the Holy Spirit, okay, which is provable, all right? But he's physically close because of the dome, okay? There's another way it has affected me. Yes, I do witness to people. I don't get up in their face and I don't say, oh, if you don't worship the Lord, y'all going to hell, blah, blah, blah. I don't do that foolishness, okay? But what I will do is share my relationship with him using empirical evidence based on who I'm talking to at the time, okay? When you're witnessing to someone, it's not one size fit all. It depends on who you're talking to, when, where, and what they're going through at the time, okay? Do I want to share this relationship that I have with Christ? Absolutely. Do I want to spend the rest of my life doing it? Absolutely, because it's true, because it's real, and it's what everyone needs, okay? The question is, how do you do it? And enclosed cosmology has actually given me even more in my arsenal to actually share the reality of the Messiah.
Chris, can I say one thing?
Go ahead.
I just want to address your friend Vader Bear out there. He's one of your mods. He said, oh yeah, atheist communism was so great, killed a bunch of people. Hang on one second. Are you telling me that medieval Christian Europe was good then? Are you telling me that Muslim Sharia law is good? Just because you have religion,
that's religion.
any more virtuous.
So we could
religion.
get Vader Bear. We could get Vader Bear and do a debate, but unfortunately, guys, it is right at that time. I got to jump to a whole nother show.
Oh, okay.
I'm not cutting off on purpose. So right now, if you guys are in the chat, it is going live right now. We have a live show coming up at 10 p.m. I got to go set that up. I have 4 minutes to do that. That's the only reason I'm kicking you guys off. The only reason. That's it. We would have gone as long as we wanted tonight, but there's another show from 10 to 12 tonight. So you can go debate Vader Bear in the chat room.
Hey, whoever he is, set him up and we'll talk.
Yeah. Vader Bear actually, he has a show on this channel, so that would be fun.
Okay.
Bring it on, boy.
So I'm gonna, guys, thank you so much, Michael and Thad. You guys, respectful, more opposite polar views possible, and everybody in the chat, you guys stayed respectful as well. I am going to end the show, but make sure tomorrow you guys come back for more of the conference. And tonight we have one more show, Robbie Davidson, coming up right now with Celebrate Truth Radio. It is going down now. Have a good night, guys.
Thanks, Chris.
See you.
Thank you.